Alright, there we go. It's like resembling something of sound. Alright, alright, I think we're good. Let me just share this out real quick. Booyah Kasha, and I hope my camera's not all gross and fudgy. Fudgy duckling. Wait. There we go. Alright. Move you closer to me. Oh man, it's so weird. My concept of time is irrevocably damaged. Chaos is starting a new job. But yeah, let me just wait and see if people trickle in. I guess I'll just read until the chat starts popping. I did pick this up though. That's pretty cool. Never actually read the Hit Girl series. Kind of cool. Didn't realize just how much of like Kick-Ass 2 was cribbing from this. Makes me want to like actually check out Kick-Ass 3 again. Because I hadn't read that in forever since since it started. But alright. Let's see. Share. Oh wait, is this title wrong? I think this is title wrong. This is not episode 70, I don't think. I think this is 71. Yeah, this is 71. Alright, let's just change the title real quick. Oh, what's up, 1610? Work retire simps who just want to work on their favorite characters in comics versus private contractor chads who get exploiter checks, royalties, and passion projects. The do whatever you want card. Yeah. I mean, literally this guy. It's like literally Mark Miller at this point, and I'm not even mad. My man's had a hard grind. I know people like to bitch at Mark Miller and bitch about Mark Miller, but honestly, all the success that man has earned, it is well earned. It's well deserved. Yeah, Mark Miller's making bank, man, and I'm happy for him. Dude started off doing like the I think it was like the Superman Adventures comics, like that tied into the Superman animated series, and now he's crossing over like all of his indie properties into like one massive where is it? Yeah, he's just like crossing everything over into like one massive book. Which, by the way, this was, I mean, I made this point on Twitter. This was like watching Bambi for the first time. I'm not sure if you have seen Bambi in recent years, but I watched it again with my niece. And I guess I just didn't remember how dark it was. Like, bro, children were just built different back in like the 50s or 60s or whenever that movie was animated. But like, yeah. I mean, I know there's like memes about Bambi's mom dying at the beginning of the movie, but like, yo, whoa, oh god, that movie's pretty intense, man. I mean, I think it's necessarily intense. I think kids need that lesson in life, but Jesus fuck. But yeah, I felt like this harkened back to Bambi, at least for me, because hey, here are all these characters you like. Here's this beautiful, lush forest of characters and ideas and themes. And what if we just dash those dreams and hopes with pain? Oh man, Big Game number 2 was rough. I'm excited to see what Big Game number 3 brings to the table. It looks like Huck and the characters from Nightclub are going to be in it, based off the cover at least. I have not read Huck. Huck was one of those books that I mean, I go on this tangent every once in a while, but like I feel like Mark Miller, when he has me, he has me. When he loses me, he loses me. Huck was one of those things that just lost me, because apparently it was a book that was just made out of like spite for like Man of Steel, because Zack Snyder like caused me PTSD, and it's like, bro, you wrote Ultimates. Like, you don't get to complain about other superheroes being handled too dark. Like, what is this? You made the Hulk make like weird sexual advances towards Betty Ross while he's charging down Midtown with a boner. You had like Hank Pym savagely beat Janet Van Dyne, and douse her with bug spray. You also had like Tony Stark go on about how he loves jerking it to hentai just before he proposes to Black Widow. Like, I don't know, it's just a lot of stuff in Ultimate where it's like, you don't get to complain about Man of Steel. You don't. You don't get that you don't get that luxury, bro. You just can't. You think this A on my head stands for France? No. Don't give me that. Man of Steel traumatized me, boy. If you don't get the oh man, I love Mark Miller. Like I love him to death. It's one of my, like, I legitimately think he's one of the best writers working in comics today, and I think he's one of the best writers of the 20th century within the comic book industry. I legitimately think he is. But everyone's entitled to an L. Even the best of us are entitled to an L. That's an L. So I haven't read Huck just for that, but I've heard it's pretty fun. So I'll give it a shot. Huck also came out around that time period when he started doing like Empress and Starlight, and I just read Starlight. Starlight's really fun. I feel like I would like Starlight more if I grew up watching like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and stuff like that. That's just not quite my bag, which I feel like it should be, considering I love Star Wars, or I guess I used to love Star Wars, so I don't know. What's up, Supreme? How you doing, man? I've been rereading Scott Pilgrim for the first time. Oh, nice. On my reread, I feel bad for Knives. Knives is more sympathetic than most of the cast. I think I hate Scott more now that I'm older. Well, that's the thing. I feel like, dude, there's a whole song. I can't remember the dude's name, but it's like Ramona Flowers destroyed a generation of women. But I think I think Scott Pilgrim in general just destroyed a whole generation. Let me see. Yeah, Ramona Flowers, Ruin a Whole Generation. Who did that? I feel like that's like by Rice Gum. Not Rice Gum. Rucka Rucka Ali. But it's not Rucka Rucka Ali. Negative XP. Alright. I mean, it's a banger and it's true, but like... yeah. Scott Pilgrim ruined everybody. But I don't know. It's also one of those Dark Knight Returns type things where I think... No, I think Brian Lee O'Malley knew exactly what he was writing. And just... When you're young, you're not picking up on subtext. You're just reading it for the text. A lot of times, you're like, oh, Scott, he's cool. Just like Ramon is cool. And everyone's cool. And Knives Chew sucks because she's a dork. And she's bringing down my man's game. Like, that's how you're going to read that book when you're like 13 or 14. Just like when you read Dark Knight Returns when you're like 13 or 14. And you're like, Batman's cool because he's beating up people who are bad. And Superman sucks because he's working for Ronald Reagan, and all the superheroes suck because Batman's cool. You have a very different read on those books, like 10 or 15 years later after you did some living. But that's with anything. But yeah, I really should go back and reread Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That's another book that I read as a kid, loved as a kid. But I watched the movie like a year ago, and I was like, yeah, Scott's kind of a piece of shit. But that's like the point. It's like the whole point. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. Can't wait for the Twitter the Twitter brigade to get all high and mighty about the animated show and go like, oh my god, Scott Pilgrim's like literally a bad person. Yeah, that's the... I don't want to get all political, but like, Twitter liberals are hilarious because it makes me feel good about me being a liberal. I'm not like the other liberals. I don't pretend like I was always a good person. I have what's called self-awareness. Christopher Nolan's Blue's Clues. Oh man, that's either gonna be like the greatest thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. What's up, Tevia? How you doing, man? 1610 Man says adaptational mundanity, supernatural and fantastical elements in a work are toned down or even completely discarded in the adaptation. I mean, that is 90% of comic book adaptations. That's a pretty hefty handful of book adaptations. I just started reading Dune. Where's my Dune? Oh, it's over here. I'm not getting that. That's behind. Oh, that's gonna. If I pull that down, that's gonna tear my whole bookshelf apart. I'm not doing that. But yeah, Dune is very much the way I'm reading it. I don't think is the way that like Denis Villeneuve is reading it. But also I don't think it's like the way that Jodorowsky read it, or not Jodorowsky. If anything, I think my read on Dune is closer aesthetically to what Jodorowsky was going for. But David Lynch, I don't think my read on Dune is like close to David Lynch's aesthetic view on Dune. But I don't know, that there's something like fundamentally different from adapting a comic to adapting a novel, because when you're adapting a novel, you're literally just pulling what your mind is picturing from text and trying to translate that to screen. Whereas if you're adapting comics, well, then you have like a visual aid to go off of at least. But yeah, there's a lot of magic taken out of comics with adaptation. I think every once in a while you'll get something that is scooping what the comics are pooping. You know, you'll get that one director who's like, no, this is what the sauce is. These are the secret ingredients. And I mean it's weirdly subjective because even with comics, they are like a visual medium, and there is that like frame of reference that I think everyone has. Like everyone's working off the same core source material, but we just read it differently. And like I really resist kind of saying people are reading things wrong anymore. It's really just people are reading things differently because you're at different stages of your life. You know, someone who's 12 reading Kraven's Last Hunt is gonna have a completely different perspective on that book than someone who's reading at age like 22, or someone who's at like 32. These three age groups are gonna read that same book completely differently, and that's reading. Just in general, that's fuck, what's the term? Data hoarding, I don't know. But like data intake. Like everyone will intake the same data, but they'll process it differently just cuz we have different shared life experiences, we have different biases. We see the world differently. And I think that's something to be celebrated as opposed to, like, I don't know, shat on, yelled about, or being the source of yelling. It's just something that should be cool, I think, instead of what we do on Twitter, and even here on YouTube. But oh yeah, all this comes out of like your your point 1610 about like adaptations just kind of being like Dollar General versions of the comics. Yeah, that's generally the case. But I think every once in a while you get something that's like really special or really cool and interesting. Supreme Omega says on Mark Millar and Garth Ennis, to them making fun of Superman is a huge no-no for them. They view Superman as something pure and precious. I mean, I get it, but in like specifically in the case of like Mark Millar, don't give me no shit about like Superman. You can't ruin Superman. You ruined the Avengers for a whole generation. Like the Avengers are just like extensions of the military-industrial complex now. It's like literally this. You've done this to the Avengers, Mark. You ruined the Avengers for everyone. You kind of don't get to bitch about like dark and gritty Superman. I mean, there's something to be said about Superman being like the first superhero, but even then, like in the Western sense, he's like the first superhero. I think there's like a Japanese superhero that actually predates Superman by like 2 or 3 years. But I don't know. The superhero as a concept is always been around. And Superman himself is just like an extension of the pulp hero, or not extension, an evolution of like the pulp hero. So I don't know. I think I like to take Superman on the same terms that I would take every character. They're all rife for reinvention. They're all rife for deconstruction. They're all like a Little Caesar's pizza. They're hot and ready to go for whatever you want to do with them. I could have phrased that way better, but you know, he's wearing those slutty little red tights all the time. He can take it. Tevye says, question, how do you feel about Mark Millar's Nemesis book? I love Nemesis. I think Nemesis Reloaded is a really great sequel as well. I think these books worked perfectly when they were coming out because just the comic industry was at a different place when the like it's like specifically to your point about like the first Nemesis. I think we were just at a place with comics where we were getting so much of I don't have my Infinite Crisis on hand. God damn it. Oh, well, boom, right here. This is perfect, actually. We were getting so much of stuff like this. You know, we were getting like this. We were getting Blue Beetle by Raphael Albuquerque. We were getting that like Infinite Crisis. Marvel was like completely reinventing themselves. You had like Grant Morrison on the Avengers. So I think when Mark Miller was like doing all of his like crazy off the wall, like hyper dark, like absurdist, like grotesque absurdism, with like books like Wanted and stuff like that. Comics were just in a place where it was a welcome change of pace if you were willing to be open to that sort of thing. Whereas now I think comics are in a very cynical place, a very I hate to use cynical and cinematic interchangeably, but I think that's where a lot of like the cultural I think that's where like our cultural touchstone for like superheroes on cinema is cynicism and cinema. They just kind of go together like butter and cheese. Wow, butter and bread, bread and butter, butter and cheese. I don't know why I said butter and cheese, but you know what I meant. But yeah, I feel like comics are just so cynical now that like more stuff like what Miller is doing just kind of feels like more of the same in a way that it wasn't like 15, 20 years ago. I still really like it. It's still my thing. I still really like it, but the market has a lot of it right now, I feel. Toby says, question, how do you feel about Nemesis doing a crossover with Brightburn? That's like pretty funny, I guess. I don't know what the outcome of that would be. I don't know what someone's pitch for that would be, but it's pretty. It could work, you know. We just saw Nemesis murder the latest superhero team that Mark Miller invented with the Ambassadors. So I don't know, man. Like, crossing everything over. Which, by the way, I actually think that was. All right, I'm back. All right, cool. Okay, looks like I'm back. But all right, can you hear me? All right, it says excellent connection. All right, I think I'm good. But all right, I guess back to what I was saying though. I think retroactively saying that everything that Mark Miller's written just takes place in one universe, I think it does work retroactively. Because I remember loving Kick-Ass up until you had Hit Girl, like going to Columbia and she was using like laser pistols and freeze grenades and stuff like that, and I was like, all right, well this whole universe started off as something like tangible and real. Like it was hyper grounded. It was the real world. The whole conceit of Kick-Ass was superheroes actually in the real world. They're just a bunch of douchebags in costumes. And again, I was just super turned off at the whole. What if Hit Girl had like a freeze gun and all that. But then you say that this takes place in the same universe as Wanted. All of that immediately is excused, and I think makes Kick-Ass retroactively a far more interesting story, because what you're ultimately saying is that, and this is what Mark Miller just kind of comes out and says with the last issue of Nemesis Reloaded, and the first issue of Big Game. This was a world full of superheroes, and in 1986, the villains won, and then they just made the superhero world the real world. They took all the wonder out of their world and just made it grit and crime and pain. But once you get to Kick-Ass, that is the seed of things correcting themselves again. Kick-Ass brings that wonder back to the world. From then you get like Superior, and then you get Starlight. You also get like well, some of the space stuff. I'm not sure how that's affected by like the giant reality warping machine that is the Empire State Building from Wanted. But actually, now I'm thinking about it, I don't know how Starlight's affected by that too, because Starlight takes place in like, Starlight takes place in or I guess like the original Duke McQueen stories take place in the 80s. Does he just did his mind just not get wiped? Does he actually remember what the world was when superheroes were there? That's I mean, that was also the other thing with Mark Miller tying all of his stuff together. There's some stuff that I don't know how you excuse that in a world where the fraternity runs everything. Like, are they just constantly resetting reality? Like, are they just DC Comics? Like, oh, something weird happened, reboot. Because Starlight ends with Duke McQueen and like a 12-year-old alien from another dimension landing on the White House lawn. Like Superior, if that takes place in the real world, that is a Shazam story. That is demonic Shazam. And they tear up most of Manhattan. Like they literally Man of Steel Manhattan. So like, yeah, dude, I mean, the world building's a little shaky, but like going into Big Game, I'm just kind of taking it for what it is. I'm still fascinated to see where this all goes. But yeah, no, I really like the Molar World verse. It's a weird name for it. But I mean, I don't know. He's making it work. He's also like retroactively making some things a little more frustrating when it comes to like collecting those books. Because apparently like Kick-Ass is being recollected as like Kick-Ass The Day of the Lazuski Years, Volume 1 through 4. And that includes Hit-Ass. That includes Hit Girl, which is Volume 2 of Kick-Ass now. So Kick-Ass 2 is now Volume 3, and Kick-Ass 3 is now Volume 4. Yeah, so some of that's just, it infuriates me, but I don't know. How the fuck does Jupiter's Legacy fit into the Malara verse? So, I thought about that. There is a really interesting passage in Wanted that states that the multiverse exists, and the villains of the Wanted universe are actually trying to keep a low profile. That way, heroes from the multiverse don't just descend and curb stomp them. So I'm assuming that the Jupiter's Legacy heroes are one of those parallel realities. Because you see when the killer, or I guess the killer 2, goes to that other reality that is 20 years ahead of the Wanted universe because time dilation or whatever the fuck. Yeah, they're like, oh, we gotta get out of here. Like we gotta cover our tracks so the superheroes don't know that we were here. In fact, that was a risky mission. Why did we come here in the first place? And it was all like part of the Dr. Sivana character's whole like he had a whole scheme to get like the Fu Manchu type supervillain to do what he wanted in like a meeting or something. But I don't know. The multiverse does exist in the Millar world. Because for all intents and purposes, the like Miller world is Silver Age DC Comics. Except like something terrible happened in 1986 that got rid of the wonder in superhero comics, which is just not being subtle at all. Mr. Millar, tell us how you really feel. Tell us how you feel. DC destroyed everything with Crisis. Because like 1986 is the year that like, yeah, you get Crisis on Infinite Earths, you got V for Vendetta, you get Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore and not David Gibbons. Is it Dave Gibbons or is Wayne Boring the one who does that? Can't remember. But you know, you also get Killing Joke. Longbow Hunters comes out by Mike Grell. That's when Green Arrow stops being like, "Ha-da-da-da, look at me, I'm Green Arrow. I have my bright, vibrant Neil Adams tights, and I'm shooting people with boxing glove arrows. Now I'm just shooting people with regular arrows. I'm gonna murder a man in issue 2." So like, I mean, comics did get super dark and they did get really edgy in the 80s. And I really do feel like that is like the frustrated thesis of Wanted. It feels very resentful in a way that superhero comics ever got to that point. But it's just kind of funny that Mark Miller's the person making that argument, and he made Ultimates. He made Ultimates. That's like the thing I'm always gonna go back to. Like, you can complain about superheroes being dark and gritty all you want, but nigga, you made Ultimates, dog. You can't. You have no leg to stand on. But let's see. 1610 said, in a pragmatic adaptation, the story is changed with the shift in medium. I mean, yeah, but that's you're describing Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and that's why I think that is one of the perfect adaptations of comics. You're also describing it's another one that I really enjoy. Spider-Verse. I think Spider-Verse is a really good job of like, yeah, that's another like, just let's just take the medium, like everything that works about the medium of comics, but like not in the way that like hacks like the all the geeky YouTube like specifically YouTube geeky movie channels talk about. Like, they took the comics and put it on screen, which actually just translates in their mind to, they took what we think comics are, because we don't actually read comics, and put the silly bullshit on screen and made it like palatable. Like, no, Spider-Verse actually does like take comics and go like, no, this is comic book storytelling on film. So yeah, every once in a while you get that. I think the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie is like that. I have not read the entirety of John Ostrander's run on Suicide Squad just because comics are expensive, and I also don't have room for all this paper and bullshit. But like, of what I've read, and what I've been told from people who've read Ostrander's run to its completion, James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie feels like a sequel to that book. Like it feels like the follow up that the comic deserved. Those are the words that those aren't my words. That's what I've been told. Um, but yeah, man. Again, every once in a while you get one of those, but it's not often. Uh, Question: Do you believe James Gunn's DC universe will succeed or fail? I want it to succeed. I don't think it will though. I think Blue Beetle is evidence of this, which is sad because I love that movie. I really love that movie. I've seen it twice now, and it just gets better every viewing. But I feel like it's too little, too late for DC. As far as like a DC cinematic universe, in the vein of the MCU, I think it's too late. I think the direction DC should have gone in is following the footsteps of the Todd Phillips Joker movie and following the footsteps of the Matt Reeves Batman movies. You should have just made prestige like films. Like make a Wes Anderson style Green Lantern movie, you know? Make a True Detective style Question movie. You know, make Pax Americana as like a 6 episode miniseries. Directed by Zack Snyder even. Like, fuck it. That's the direction I think DC should have gone in. They shouldn't have tried to ape the or try to continue aping Marvel and the shared universe shtick with a bunch of action comedies. They should not have done that. They should not try to do that in the future. What they really should do is buckle down on making director-driven, artist-focused films. Just make films. Films that are inspired by these characters and like the genres that they are born from. Make a pulpy Superman movie. I think that put butts in seats. I honest to God think that would put butts in seats if you made just a straight up Grant Morrison, Rags Morales inspired Superman movie where he's got the t-shirt with the jeans and he's holding like Jeff Bezos over his head and he's like, if you don't let your workers go to the bathroom, I'm gonna drop you. And he's just, somebody save me! I'm paying the cops to protect me. Save me! Just drops him. Pulp hero Superman, do it. Like, I think that's the direction DC should have gone in. And I don't think there should have been like a concerted effort to have these films connect with one another. I think, in fact, I think that should not have been the case at all. I think DC should have just made standalone, prestige, high-profile movies with high-profile actors, high-profile directors. But because they're still trying to ride that cinematic universe gravy train, I think I think the gravy's all dried out. I don't think there's any gravy left. I think it's over. I think the audience is... I think people are tired of the superhero movie as it's been practiced this past decade and a half. I think it is over. And I don't think James Gunn's DC Universe is going to take off. Which is a shame, because I really like James Gunn. I don't have the whole thing that I know some other people have now, where they're like, well, actually, James Gunn kind of sucks, and blah, blah, blah. Like, I love James Gunn. I want Superman Legacy to succeed. I just don't think it will. I think people are tired of the cinematic universe action comedy routine. And I think Superman Legacy is going to be further evidence of that. because Blue Beetle is already evidence of that. But I think Superman Legacy is going to be further evidence of that. But here's hoping that I am wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I really want that movie to do well. I think Superman needs a cinematic W. But let's see. Supreme Omega says, confession. I've been less and less a fan of Brian K. Vaughan as I get older. Interesting. I don't know, maybe I'm tired of his whole TV style writing with quippy humor and shocking deaths. I wonder if I'm the only one. I don't think you are. In fact, in like the waning months, really like the last year that I worked at my local comic shop, I had a lot of people telling me that like Brian K. Vaughan is just, he writes good movie pitches and good TV show pitches, but like it's not what people are looking for right now. That could have just been my store, but I don't know. I also think it's just the era that we're in, where so much material is based on comics now, and so much material that is conceived of within the comic book medium with the express purpose of being pitched to a studio like Netflix or any one of the myriad of streaming services. I think that style is just it's waning on people. I think people are hip to it, and I think they're just tired of it. Tevi says, question: will the Marvel Universe reboot after Secret Wars? I mean, maybe. I guess. I don't care. I don't care anymore. The MCU is they just lost me. But I mean, if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. I feel like the MCU is at a point right now, and I think they are spiraling towards this point. Eric from Geekvolution said that, well, he predicted really that, and this was way back during like a commentary for like Age of Ultron or something like that, where it was like the MCU is not going to just stop making movies. They're going to have just like a slew of stinkers, and then in like Marvel fashion, because the comics do this all the time, and he was like, the movies are gonna do this too. They're gonna just start pumping out everything that everyone is responding well to, and then people are going to respond not as well to the just burst in quantity of content. There will be a lack of quality control for all the sheer number of content coming out, and people are just they're gonna get tired of it, and then the MCU just gonna like go out with a whimper. He said this like 8 years ago, and it's true. It's true. The MCU is, I think, slowly going out with a whimper. Didn't the original Nemesis go over the top? I mean, it went over the top in like a way that was still. He didn't have like freeze cannons and shit. Like he didn't have like weapons that you'd see from like the Arkham games or Fortnite. Like the original Nemesis it was just a dude with a bunch of like AKs and sniper rifles and frag grenades. He wasn't charging you with like the arsenal that you'd see in like Warhammer 40k or some shit. Jupiter's Legacy, we talked about this already. Arguably, this from 1610. A soft reboot happens whenever a new writer is chosen for a long-running comic book. When the previous writer finishes their run, they try to conclude their run for a clean slate for new writers. Yeah, that's like generally the case. Generally the case. I kind of like when that doesn't happen. I kind of like when writers just kind of end on like a crazy status quo, and the next person, you just gotta take those cards and you gotta do something interesting with them. Like Bendis did this with Daredevil. His run on Daredevil ended with like Matt. His identity is exposed. He's in prison along with the Punisher and Kingpin and Bullseye, and then Ed Brubaker has to pick up those pieces. And I don't remember how Ed Brubaker's run ends. No, Ed Brubaker's run ends with Matt becoming an acolyte for the Hand, and then you get the Indigo run after that, which gets you Shadowland. But then Shadowland ends, and then you get Mark Waid coming on the book after that. And then Matt just gets moved to like the other side of America, and it's just like hanging out in San Francisco. He's beating up goons and mob bosses. He's fighting the Spot. Mark Waid's like one of the few people to take the Spot seriously in comics. Although I'm sure that's gonna happen a lot more now after Across the Spider-Verse. But yeah, I don't know. I generally really like when superhero comics don't just end with the status quo. I like when they end with like weird, off the wall, like bonkers status quos that the next person has to like pick up and go like, all right, well, let's do something with this. This is weird. Let's do something with this. How is Jupiter's Legacy connected to the big? Oh, we already talked about that. Yeah, multiverse probably. How does Wanted connect to Big Game? Oh, just read issue. Read issue 1 of Big Game. They explain it. Yeah, or just read Nemesis Reloaded. Yeah, that is it. They explain it. Wait, where was I? I keep scrolling too aggressively and I don't know where I am. Supreme Omega says, question, in your view, what are the new modern classic runs in comics of both the big two and creator-owned stuff the past 10 to 13 years? I definitely think the Kick-Ass quadrilogy is that is a classic of like modern comics. I think as far as like Marvel and DC are concerned, Immortal Hulk, that is an instant classic. Much rather that's going to be seen as a classic in the next like 10 to 15 years. Part of me wants to say Black Hammer, but I'm not sure if anyone else read that but me, like 5 other people on the internet. But that's really good. Trying to think. Definitely the Hickman run on the Avengers. Despite my claims that is the best Justice League book published by Marvel. In the same way that like Tom King's run on Batman is just the best run on Daredevil published by DC. It's like I was making a point there, but yeah. Anyways, yeah. Hickman's run on Avengers, that's gonna be seen as a classic. Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise by Trad Moore. That's a book that I think a lot of people slept on, but it's gonna be looked back on as something that's really special and inspirational. um, or I guess inspirational for like a new generation of like comics writers and artists. Um, what else? Definitely Scott Snyder's run on Batman. Again, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but like, credit where credit's due. It is the most inspirational run on that, or not inspirational. Yeah, actually, I'll take the back for like the sake of mass media adaptation. Yeah, like a lot of inspirations pulled from that run. So yeah, definitely Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run on Batman. Grant Morrison's run on Batman, if we're gonna count that, because people are also cribbing a lot from Grant Morrison's run on Batman. Yeah, man. Trying to think. Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man. That's another one. That's another one that I think is technically viewed as a classic. All the really popular Spider-Man material that's being adapted right now comes from Dan Slott. Spider-Man PS4 video game, like by Insomniac, they're riffing on Dan Slott real hard. Spider-Verse is literally a Dan Slott event. I'm also like 90% convinced that at some point they're going to adapt Superior Spider-Man for the Insomniac games. So yeah, Dan Slott's run on Spider-Man is super. That's a classic right there. Also, all the Spider-Man cartoons have been adapting material from Dan Slott's run, so yeah, it counts as a classic. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of like classic runs on superheroes that are coming out right now. Yeah. You forgot Watchmen. Oh, when I was talking about the 1986, yeah. But yeah, Watchmen. 1610 Man says, Mark Miller, 1986, modern age begins after DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths and Marvel's Secret Wars ruined everything, kids. So anyways, here's my story about Captain America beating the shit out of Giant Man and then going to the Wasp saying, "You're my girlfriend now, right?" Yeah. 1986 is also the year of Jean Grey's resurrection. That's true. That's true. That is the first sign of the trope that would plague modern superhero comics, which is death being a revolving door. Pain, but accurate. Tevi says, question, why would Wesley Gibson team up with Nemesis? Because wouldn't Wesley kill Nemesis in 2 seconds? Dude, just read Big Game. It's there. I mean, I don't have issue 1 right here, but like, yeah, it's. In fact, no, read Nemesis Reloaded. They explain all of this. Yeah, it's in there. Isn't that New 52 Superman? Oh, when I was talking about my ideal Superman standalone film, yeah, it is. Which, by the way, I'ma just say this right here. As someone who did love New 52 Superman back when it was coming out, I loved the Grant Morrison run, along with Rags Morales on New 52 Action Comics. I also loved Superman Earth 1 when that was coming out by J. Michael Straczynski and Shane Davis. I also loved the Zack Snyder Man of Steel and BVS as it was coming out. I'm just saying this now because I'm seeing a lot of people just like swarm the internet saying, you know, actually, if you go back and you read New 52 Superman, it actually touches on a lot of core things. You know what? You know who was there saying that 10 years ago? Me. I was saying that. And now everyone wants to say, oh, actually, New 52 Superman, Earth 1 actually has a lot of really good points. Duh. I mean, I guess I should be, like, opening my arms, going like, hey, welcome to the party. But, like, part of me is a little frustrated. I'm just a little frustrated because I remember back then when everyone was just saying, you only like that because it's dark and gritty and you actually don't like Superman. Actually, I do like Superman. I'm just open to seeing this character do more than just stand around and give a cheesy smile. But it's like one part frustrating and one part like validating that yeah, these books are great. These movies are really cool and interesting. I know, I was there. I was saying it 10 years ago. Now everyone else has just finally joined me in the sun. And that's kind of cool, I guess. But yep, I don't know. Just it's the good pain. It's the pain of knowing that you were right all along and that everyone else was wrong, and that's cool. Make Christopher Nolan's Blue Beetle. So that is literally just James Bond. That is literally just James Bond if James Bond was Q. That's it. In fact, isn't there a whole thing where like Ted Kord's uncle wanted to like take over the world? It's like literally a James Bond plot. Michael Bay's New 52 Superman. That wouldn't exist. That is a contradiction right there. I mean, to be fair, the first Transformers movie is also a massive contradiction, so I don't know. That movie is both anti-government and pro-military. So, like, you know what? Maybe Michael Bay's New 52 Superman could work perfectly. A pro-America, anti-imperialist, socialist Superman movie. Totally work. Oh yeah, directed by Michael Bay. Written by Orci and Kurtzman. What happens if you're wrong and Superman Legacy does succeed and not fail? Then I'm wrong. And we got a really popular and cool Superman film franchise. And that's also cool. And I like that. That's what I want to happen. I just don't think that's what's gonna happen. Supreme says, on superhero film, thoughts on the 2003 Hulk, film by Ang Lee. It's a very polarizing film. It's polarizing because people are wrong. That movie is actually amazing. That's one of those films that it is not an adaptation of Peter David's run on the Hulk, but it's an adaptation of the flavor and the vibe and the themes of Peter David's run on Hulk. The Hulk is not like a superhero story. It's a monster movie about a man who's fighting his father, or like fighting his childhood memories of him watching his father be abusive. Like, I don't know, it's a story about abuse. It's a story about like childhood trauma. It's a story about a man who feels like he's not enough and has always felt like he's not enough, and grows up feeling like the world around him is his father beating him down. And Ang Lee's Hulk is just, it's that, and it's like weirdly like the perfect adaptation of Peter David's run. See, I love that Ang Lee Hulk movie. I think it's great. Oh no, goddamn! Scroll too hard. Hey, what's good, Arcus? How you doing, man? I'll get back to your question. Just gotta work my way back down. Where was I? Fuck. Question. This is from Tevia. What happens if the comics do a soft reboot? Like Marvel. I mean they already kind of did. Like Secret Wars was like a soft reboot. Um, I heard a rumor that Marvel was gonna soft reboot after Ultimate Invasion. I am fascinated to see what that looks like. I'm more so cautiously optimistic to see what that looks like. Um, but that is what the internet is saying. Um, Fascinated to see where that goes. Arcus says, "Oh, what's up, Arcus, man? What's up, Beanie? Question. All right, shoot. What Shazam family you like better? The original pre-crisis Marvel family, or the post-crisis Marvel family? Jeff Johns, Shazam kids, or Billy just being alone as Captain Marvel?" I feel like if I read more Captain Marvel, I'd have a good answer for you. As is, all I really have a frame of reference for is the Jeff Johns material. Um, I do think the Shazam family under Jeff Johns is a little too big. Um, I think, and I haven't read this material, so this is just me going off of what it looks like, be judging books by their covers and all that. Um, I think the pre-crisis, or really pre-New 52, take on Shazam, the Shazam family, was like kind of, it's perfect. You got three members of the family. Technically four if you count Uncle Dudley. There is Captain Marvel. There's Mary Marvel. There is Captain Marvel Jr. Then there's Uncle Dudley. That's it. That's all you need. Once you get like all the foster siblings in there, who, from what I've read, don't really get all that much development. Like Darla's the cute one. Then like you have the gamer boy and the kid who's into sports, who in the Fury of the Gods movie is also gay. Like, which by the way, that's the only development that character's gotten in any medium. I'm gay. Oh, cool character. Look, you have something interesting to jump off of with your character. You're not just another one of the Shazam kids. Like, I don't know. I feel like the Shazam family's too big now, but time has that weird way of normalizing things to where that is just the Shazam family now. I don't know. I have to. End of the day, I should read more Shazam. That's my final answer. I need to read more Shazam. Question. This is from Tevia. Why do you think Marvel hates Peter Parker Spider-Man? And what from December 24/7. I don't think Marvel hates Spider-Man. I think Marvel, again, I say this all the time. Marvel doesn't hate Spider-Man. They just don't know what to do with him. And this isn't like a thing that you can just blame on any one person. I think this is the culmination of compounding variables over decades. One of I think the big problems with the character at the turn of the 20th century into the 21st is that Superman. I'll go back. I think Spider-Man is more so turned into Superman from like the early 2000s onward. I think that starts with Raimi. Like, I think that first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film is more so a Superman film than it is a Spider-Man film. Then you get stuff like Spider-Man Blue by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, and that's just like nauseatingly romantic. And not in like a kissy booty kind of like ooh kind of way. I mean, Spider-Man's always got to be like a romance book, but like it's romantic in that it's looking back at a lot of that later Stan Lee, Steve Ditko era Spider-Man material, and the Romita years up to the Gil Kane years with Jerry Conway. Yeah, Jerry Conway. Looking at all that material with rose tinted glasses, which granted, that's the point. That is the point. Like that book is all about nostalgia, and I'm gonna do a video about that at some point in the future. But I do feel like Spider-Man just becomes a very rose-tinted character as time goes on. And that's where we get what I call the Supermanification of this character. I think Spider-Man thematically becomes more and more like Superman as the years go by. I think we start to conflate those characters thematically. I think there is a lot of Superman in a lot of Spider-Man adaptations, particularly the video games. So like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there is a hard Supermanification of that character that is going on right now. That is at war with the polar opposite ideology, which is that Spider-Man must suffer. Which I don't agree with. I think that is equally a gross misunderstanding of the character of Spider-Man. Because while Spider-Man isn't Marvel Superman, I don't agree with that philosophy or that ideology. I also don't think that we should just write Spider-Man like Daredevil. Like, if you want to break a character down to like their most base atoms, if you just want to show a man quivering naked on the floor, wet, covered in urine, beaten half to death, with like pain in his eyes, okay, yeah, go write Daredevil, man. Go write Daredevil. Matt Murdock is the character who like you can shove a soldering iron through his genitals and like pull him through a sea of broken glass and Taco Bell diarrhea, and then just watch him stand up, shake it off, and grit his teeth and move on. Spider-Man's not that character. Peter Parker's not that character. Peter Parker is a person. If you put Daredevil in a room with like two bodies that are like hanging upside down, being bled dry, Matt's gonna be like, "Oh man, I know the smell of death. Oh, I've seen it one too many times. Time to investigate. I gotta get to the bottom of this in Hell's Kitchen." Like, yeah, Matt's gonna just grit his teeth and move on. You put Peter Parker in that situation, his day is ruined. His week is ruined. You've ruined this character's month. Peter he's not gonna cope with that. He's gonna go visit Aunt May at like a barbecue, and she's like, "Oh, Peter, I made rib tips with barbecue sauce." All I see is death. He just runs to his childhood room and just like curls into a ball in the corner. He's like, "I've seen things you couldn't believe." Like, Peter Parker's a person. You kick him enough while he's down, he's just gonna cry. It feels like kicking a puppy or watching someone kick a puppy, like when you just keep adding to his pain. Ironically, we were talking about Spider-Man Blue earlier. One of the passages, or like one of the quotes that I think is really important, and just really gets that character, is, I think it's like the first issue, where Peter's, he says something to the effect of, life is a series of like hard knocks that you just get up from. Like the knocks get harder, but the reward for you getting up is sweeter. It's something like that. But that's Spider-Man. You watch him get knocked down so he can get back up again. You don't just keep kicking him while he's down. That's Daredevil. So So it's really just comes down to like a gross misunderstanding of the character, that I think a lot of people at Marvel just have right now. I think a lot of people at Marvel just they have a gross misunderstanding of Spider-Man, and there ain't nothing I can do about it. There just ain't. It just is what it is, baby. It is what it is. That's why I stopped reading Spider-Man, and you could too. Just stop. Pull the plug. Pull the plug, and then just you'll be a lot happier. Brad Meltzer's Captain Marvel family, the assault victim crime stories. Oh, it's so funny because Brad Meltzer does like children's stories now. The Superman Omega says on Brian K. Vaughan's classic 2000s works. I feel like Runaways aged the best. I agree. Something about Runaways. Something about Runaways that feels timeless. I wonder if because a lot of it was based on his own youth. I did not know that about the Runaways, but that is interesting. I'm not gonna say I think it's aged the best. There's a lot of early 2000s isms in that book, like a lot of them, but I do think it's a really good story. Yeah. I'm trying to think like Brian K. Vaughan stories that he's done for Marvel. I know he did like some tie-ins to like X-Men during one of the big 90s events. I don't know. Let's see. Where's the bibliography? Oh, there we go. Marvel Comics. Age of Apocalypse. Yeah, he did a bunch of tie-ins to Age of Apocalypse. Yeah, he did Ultimate X-Men. I didn't like Ultimate X-Men. I did not read the Logan book that he did. I did like Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty. That was really good. I don't know if I read The Hood or not. That might be one of those things I read as a kid and just kind of forgot about because I was a kid. And sometimes good comics just kind of... okay, Doctor Strange the Oath. I think that's that's another one of those books that's like one of the best of... I think this was another 1610 Man question, like best runs on comics. That's another one of those. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff of his that like holds up really well. Specifically, Doctor Strange: The Oath. That's one of those books that holds up really well. Tom King's Spider-Man: The 24/7 Tragedy Hours. You joke, but I would actually be down for seeing a Tom King Spider-Man book. By evidence of his Batman run, which is literally just him doing a Daredevil book. Think about it. A man who's a pulp hero, who's not happy doing what he does, but he does it anyways. He needs a strong woman to lean on, but she also betrays him, and it hurts him when she betrays him. And he has to fight a big imposing threat that takes over the city. Then he has to fight his father. Tom King wrote a banger ass Daredevil book. It just sucks that it was called Batman. Didn't Nemesis Reloaded retcon the original Nemesis? I don't think it did, but I could go back and reread those like back to back. Superman Rebirth and Action Comics Rebirth. Those are modern classics. I don't know about Action Comics, but I would consider Superman Rebirth to be like a classic. Black Hammer's really, yeah, Black Hammer is awesome. I'm glad you're here with me on that one. Brian K. Vaughan's Runaway. It's all downhill after this. Yeah. Yeah. Because who does it afterwards? Is it like Joss Whedon who does it after him? That's where you get like the weird time travel, like lolly vampire shit. I don't know. That whole thing was just, what are we doing, Doug? What are we doing? Ooh, that was amazing. Proud of that one. John Ty, what's up, John Ty? I will say, so far, Philip Kennedy Johnson's World Saga is a modern classic. Yes, you're right. That is a modern classic. I 110% agree with that. I read Big Game, and I'm still kind of lost and confused. I think it's gonna be one of those things that just like makes more sense after it's all written. But I mean, to me, it works. It works. It makes sense. John Ty says, I really love Superman Unchained by Scott Snyder. Me too. I loved it. I thought it was great. No one else read it. And the people who did read it, they watched the Comic Pop documentary, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this book, it's good by New 52 standards, but it actually sucks because it's New 52." And it's like, God damn it, God, this is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have cool things. No disrespect towards like Sal and Comic Pop, just like, God damn it. 16-7 says New 52 reboot, and Marvel Now, better than you remember. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that was pretty good. Like Rick Remender's run on Captain America was around that time period. You also got the Peter David, his like third run on Spider-Man 2099 with that's where you get like the white suit for 2099. That material is pretty fun. Even that Bendis Defenders book, which is very clearly just the show is out, make something because the show is out. Even that was pretty good, especially by like modern Bendis standards. Yeah, it was a banger. Except New 52 Superman after Grant Morrison went to hell. I think Scott Snyder does a run after Morrison. I really like the not Andy Diggle. Andy Diggle has a pretty good run on Action Comics. It's like fine. It's not great, but it's fine. It's just serviceable Superman fare. Who's the guy who comes after that though? Aaron Cooter and Greg Pak. I think they could have been one of the best. I think they could have been one of the best Superman creative teams ever, but they just got caught up in a bunch of like editorial bullshit. That's when you get Super Doom and all that. That's when Superman loses his powers, and then he's like trying to get to the Fortress of Solitude, but then ninjas fight him. Very weird time period for Superman. I don't know. But the Supreme says on Azzarello, never a big fan of Azzarello. 100 Bullets has not aged well. Interesting. You're the first person to say that, because everyone else I know says the opposite. Not a fan of his Batman stuff like Broken City, and his New 52 run on Wonder Woman should have been in Elseworlds. I disagree with that last one. I really like the I love the idea of taking a character whose whole identity is formed around I am the ultimate woman because I was created by sapphic woman magic, and saying, actually, you're a weapon who was created because your mom had an affair with Zeus, who is the ultimate patriarch of mythology. Um, I think that's fascinating. That for me is up there with like John Byrne retconning that like Krypton was actually a pretty shitty society that deserved to die. I like stuff like that. I like when you have a character who they see the world one way, and that becomes like their motivation, that becomes their drive, and then you have this like just reality check. Brian Azzarello did it again with Batman Damned. I read that over the weekend for the first time since that book came out. And it's funny because when I read it when it first came out, I was like, this is a very meh kind of story. But after reading it again, I don't want Thomas Wayne being a cheater to be canon. But I think it's so interesting that retroactively saying that the Batman that we see in Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo's Joker is like actually one of the most deeply flawed, deeply human takes on Batman is fascinating. Because the thing I really like about Joker is that that's all from Johnny Frost's perspective. Johnny Frost is this like shitbag, like loser douchebag who just wants to be cool. He wants to ascend to that realm of being mythic, like Batman and Two-Face and Riddler and Killer Croc and Penguin and the Joker. That's the whole point of that book. Like this guy wants to become something greater. He wants to become something mythic, but he can't because he's just a guy. I really like Batman Damned being a follow-up to Joker in that it says that everyone's just kind of like everyone's smoke and mirrors. No one is as grand and epic as they like to like say they are, or as how people see them as being. Batman is not like this epic paragon of like virtue because he has this mortal wound and he has an opportunity to save the Joker, but in a very human moment of hesitation he pulls away because he's afraid, because he's a man. I think that's very fascinating. I love Batman Damned. That's a book I have to do a whole review on that at some point. That book is really good. But Batman Damned, like as a companion piece with Joker, it's really good. They read really well back to back, I would imagine. But yeah, I said to say I really like Brian Azzarello. I am still gonna check out 100 Bullets just because I feel like that's one of the books that you just kind of have to read if you're into comics. But yeah, I'm gonna check that out at some point. John Ty says, I had that type of frustration when Philip Kennedy Johnson's World Saga was coming out. There were so many Superman fans that hated it because Superman was in space. That's dumb. That's dumb. Superman goes to space. Also, that book is epic. That book is epic, and I think that's what Superman needs. I think Superman needs to be epic. I think Superman should be allowed to be epic. Nothing ages well when it's not meant to be timeless. That's true. That is true. Arcus says New 52 Superman was good. Snyder Superman was never good. Alright, that's fair. When wanted to make Superman be like in Justice games. See, I don't know. When it comes to Zack Snyder's take on Superman, I talk about Zack Snyder's Superman a lot on this channel, but when it comes to Zack Snyder's take on Superman, what I really think he's doing is he's doing his version of Kingdom Come. And this is another reason why I think Kingdom Come kind of ruined the DC universe, but like also kind of is perfect for the DC universe. Kingdom Come is an epic that takes like these archetypes and it just tells this like modern mythology with them. I think Zack Snyder was trying to do that with his Justice League. Man of Steel is very much like a Campbellian like hero's journey. BVS into Justice League, that is the Arthurian like epic legend. Like Zack Snyder's Justice League is just straight up like Seven Samurai. Like Zack Snyder's trying to like tell this like modern myth with the DC universe. And in a lot of myth there is betrayal, there's adultery, there's cuckoldry, there's murder, there's collusion, there's weird shit like eating your children and then they pop out of your head. So, I feel like Zack Snyder was trying to go for that with his DC universe, and it just didn't take because Marvel beat DC to the punch, and DC... I think Marvel like set this like cultural this culture within superhero movies that like these things have to be kind of like kitschy, and Zack Snyder doesn't really do kitschy, but I don't know. I'm into it. I was into it. Also, a lot of that stuff with like the cuckoldry that just wasn't filmed, so you never would have seen it. It never would have seen the light of day. In fact, I'm sure that if Zack Snyder continued with his DC universe, it would have just kind of... It would have ended with like Flashpoint or something. But the universe gets reset and then boom, we get to reboot now and get to have a more classic DC universe. Question: how do you do a crossover with Brightburn and Jonathan Kent? I don't know. John Kent gives the Brightburn kid a hug and says, "You can't be Hitler, because Hitler actually had some good points. All he needed was a hug." I feel like that's what John Kent versus Brightburn would be. Just gives him a hug and talks down to him the entire time. It's so weird. I made that whole joke in My Adventures of Superman review where I was like, in 5 years, Superman's just gonna be Steven Universe. I was wrong. It wasn't even like a month after that video came out, you got the Adventures of John Kent where he's giving Injustice Superman a hug. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. That character's gonna just be disgustingly cutesy in the next couple years. Or maybe months at this rate. Who knows? We'll see. John Ty says, I feel like ever since the MCU version of the Hulk went downhill, people are retroactively saying that Ang Lee's Hulk was good all along. I mean, I've been saying that Ang Lee's Hulk is good all along. I've always been saying that. I'm just glad that people are finally joining me in the sun, because I'm right, and I've been right this whole time. 1610 Man says, Ang Lee said, my version of Hulk is a monster movie, a horror genre, not inspired by comics, you're doing your own thing. Um, yeah, and it worked. Uh, and I wish more Marvel projects did that. I honestly, I think DC would be an interesting place to like explore different genres with these characters, but like Marvel in particular, um, Marvel's kind of born out of that like era of, oh man, wouldn't this be cool if it was a movie? Um, Everything is film references. Uh, Justin Hammer, literally modeled after Peter Cushing. His name is Hammer after the Hammer movie monster production studio. Like it's all there, man. It's all right there. I would really love an Iron Man movie that uh, is just straight up a James Bond film. That'd be awesome. Um, or a Spider-Man film that is just straight up a horror film. It'd be nice if someone to remember that Spider-Man's a horror character. I don't know. 16 Man says, often occurs in adaptations of superhero comics, where it's hard to find actors and actresses who fit the improbable physique of characters they're portraying. That's when I think you can get like loosey goosey with some characters. I think Henry Cavill looks amazing as Superman, but I don't need every actor to be like an Ed McGuinness drawing. They don't have to have like muscles on top of muscles. Not every female character look, if she ain't got the triple G's with the size 5 waist, well then that's fine. She doesn't have to look like if you're gonna make a Superman, if you're not Superman, if you're gonna make a Supergirl adaptation, she doesn't have to look like a Michael Turner drawing. That's not possible. Just get someone who I can believe as Supergirl, or I can believe as Captain America, which I think Chris Evans did a really good job of. Just get people that like I can believe as those characters for 2 hours, and you're fine. That's what acting is. Just it's acting. It's not real. We know it's not real. These actors can't be drawings. Best thing we can do is like approximate that with CGI and makeup. That's it. So he says, question: why can't Marvel Comics just let Peter Parker retire? Because we keep talking about him. I keep telling you, W. We keep talking about Spider-Man, and like that's why Marvel's not gonna let him go. We're not ignoring him. Once we start ignoring him, then it's over. You know, and that'll either be a good thing or just a painful thing, but it'll be a thing, and it will be over. Imagine what if Daredevil family in line with DC superhero family, starring Daredevil, Lady Daredevil, Kid Daredevil, Bullseye Boy, Bullseye Boy, Daredevil has featuring Foggy Nelson as Yellow Daredevil. Thanks. I hate it. That sounds awful. John Ty says, that's one of the reasons why I love modern versions of comic book Hawkeye. Clint is a loser with a heart of gold. I can see that too. I also feel like Clint Barton is just been relegated to being other Daredevil. There are a lot of characters in Marvel Comics who I think, well, not just Marvel Comics, I think in between Marvel and DC, there are a lot of characters who are they're just Daredevil now. I had this when I read the Andreas Orantino and Jeff Lemire run on Green Arrow from the New 52. I was like, this is great, but this is just a Daredevil book. Tom King's run on Batman is just a Daredevil book. Jeff Lemire's run on both Hawkeye and I already talked about the Green Arrow thing, but like, yeah, it's just just Daredevil, Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye with David Aja, it just kind of winds up being just Daredevil, which is good, because Daredevil is love, Daredevil is life, Daredevil is he's the narrative and thematic Ambrosius of comics. He is the golden loins. He's that good sauce. He's the sauce man, and I love him. Supreme says on Devin Grayson's Nightwing. Jesus Christ, we're gonna dig that corpse up. Okay, was it all her fault? Because I know a lot of it was derailed by War Games, Infinite Crisis, and the mandated nuking of Bloodhaven. Because she wanted to do Daredevil Born Again for Dick. I mean, I'm glad that didn't happen just because I think that doesn't need to happen. Dick already had his Born Again moment with the new Teen Titans. It's called Judas Contract. That's why he's Nightwing. The whole point of Judas Contract. He's born again. Is Nightwing. I don't know. There's just a lot of characters between Marvel and DC over the past 20 years. You can tell someone wants to just do Born Again, or just write Daredevil in general, and you're like, guys, it's the fucking Flash, man. What are we doing? Not every character has to be Daredevil. Like everyone bitches about we're making all the characters Batman. Really, we're making all the characters Daredevil. That's the problem. 1610 says Spider-Man from being happy-ish. If someone emo as a result of a crappy personal life, to so emo that he makes deals with the devil to stop having more pain. Yep. Also, that is wonderful storytelling. That is expert character work. Having your characters all about power and responsibility. Chief among all those two things is responsibility. Making a deal with the devil. Yep, that's how you write. Scream says, New 52 Wonder Woman, my problem with the Daughter's origin with Diana is that it's already Cassie's origin. No need to transplant it to Diana. Also, I feel like the Clay origin is too fundamental to me. That's fair. I would also say they were just kind of adapting what the DC animated universe did as well. Although I think in that version, Hades is her father, which I think is weird, but it's the gods. It is what it is. Arca says, I didn't like World Saga because there was no tension. What if instead of the Authority it was the Super Family who was there, and you get Mongol who broke them, and Superman being actually emotionally pushed? That'd be really cool. I'd like to see that. But then you get the people who go you made Superman sad. You can't have Superman be sad. Superman's not supposed to experience a full range of human emotions. You can't be sad. Toby says, final question. Okay. Just wondering about if Marvel had the balls to retire Peter Parker Spider-Man. Do you believe they will let Miles maintain the Spider-Man comics? Yes, because he's full of exaggerated swagger. Shame the World movie was disappointing. Dude, the whole Tomorrowverse is disappointing. Just, what was the point, dog? What was the absolute point? Spider-Man fan, giving Marvel clout for publicity stunts. Yeah, that's all of us, really. 1610 says Marvel. Wow, these Spider-Man fans keep buying the books. Let's add more controversy. Yeah, that's pain. I hate it. But I think it's like strictly for the completionists at this point, because I remember asking the owner of my my former local comic shop, or I guess the former owner of my local comic shop, because I was just curious, like, hey, so how many people on average buy Amazing Spider-Man now? And he was like, Spider-Man used to sell Batman numbers. Now Spider-Man sells like about Superman numbers on average. Not that there's anything wrong with Superman. It's just Superman doesn't sell as much as Batman does. That's just a reality. Supreme Omega says the inherent problem with DC's legacy, even before Didio, is that there is no way the higher ups will ever allow Bruce, Clark, and Diana to retire from their mantles. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a big problem. I think you should let those characters like move on to greener and brighter pastures, but they're just not gonna let that happen, unfortunately. Good night, W. Arcus says Superman got it the worst than Spider-Man. He isn't allowed to do anything anymore. That's true. I really feel like Superman's just kind of become like a wet blanket over the past like couple years. He's a black hole of personality. He's just perfect man, and that's boring for everybody involved, I think. Is it true that covers and variants sell more than story? Absolutely. Yeah. Which is a goddamn shame, but they drive that speculator market real hard. 1610 Man says, is it true that covers and variant? Oh yeah, I already answered that question. Arcus says, I said it, but you didn't listen to me, Beanie. Tomorrowverse always sucked, while the New 52 movie universe was a lot better than people give it credit for. I think there is cool stuff here and there in the New 52 universe. But overall, I think it is just as bad. 1610 Man says, if fans want growth in comics, just make another universe where that happens to the characters. Oh, so like Kingdom Come or Earth X or like the Marvel Max line. I mean, that'd be cool. Dude, can you imagine Spider-Man Max? I can. I would love that. Marvel, hire me. Marvel, hire me to do Spider-Man Max. I swear to God, that needs to happen. Get Goran Parlov on the phone. Oh man. No, actually get see if Libra Mayho would be up to doing it. That would be great. Spider-Man Max, drawn by Libra Mayho and Goran Parlov. That'd be awesome. I would love that so hard. Spider-Man Max, the New Yorker vibes. I'm swinging it. Supreme says, also, on the Trinity, I feel like most of DC's problems is the constant focus on protection of the Trinity. Can't make Batman too old. That's true. I don't know, man. Where's Wonder Woman should have like a child. I mean, I know she has a child now. She's like perfect in every way. She shows up the boys all the time, and you're just like, all right, Tom. I didn't know we're still doing this, but yeah, I really think DC should just let the Trinity stretch their legs and let creatives do creative shit with the Trinity. I think that's a no-brainer for me personally, but is what it is. It's what it is. Arcus, Man of Style, Marvel Knights X. Man, that'd be cool. I don't know what you do with that, but that'd be pretty cool. I don't have a pitch for that off the top of my head. 1610 Men says, well, did Superman exist in the Marvel Max verse? Because Deadpool Max was brainwashed, or he was a brainwashed CIA assassin. That's true. Superpowers kind of exist in the Marvel Max universe. Like, I know Nick Fury is, like, not immortal, but, like, he's aging super slow because he has, like, a bullet lodged in his head. I don't know how that affects your aging, but it works, I suppose. But, yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to actually call it one. New schedule at work is tiresome. And I have to work tomorrow morning, so that's gonna be great. But yeah, guys, hey, thanks for watching. I'm so sorry again that I had to push this back 2 days, but we're back on schedule next week. I will see you guys on Wednesday, and hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming by, and much love, guys. Much love.